Hey, what's up? In this episode, we're going to be looking at the first extension for Cine Designer that is called Motion Control. So I'm on the website right now, and also if you hear crying in the background, that's my son trying to take a nap. You guys know about taking naps. Sometimes it doesn't go so well. My wife's rocking that right now. So here we are at the website, cinematographydb.com/cinedesigner or cinedesigner.com. I did a little bit of a redesign. Not a big deal for the people that have bought it already, but I think for the people who are still considering, I've changed the name from R1. We're dropping the release system. We're calling it Core, and Core is essentially going to be updated semi-regularly forever-ish. You know, I can't say that I can't like commit to forever in case, you know, whatever, like I stop doing this for some reason, or I feel like it gets pretty full. So Core will be updated for a long time until you basically have, like, I would say, like all the area lights, all the mole lights, all the Kino flows, all the stands, all the standard stuff that you would get with like a 10-ton grip truck with all the lights, all the stuff that you normally use, that's going to end up in Core. But what we're going to look at today is the first paid extension. This is stuff that's a little bit more niche, requires like a lot more research on my end to make it work. So we'll look at the first one, and it's called Motion Control. So we're going to go to Extension Motion Control, and it's also under Products here. Might not always be there, but for now it is, so you can go look at it that way. And this is the page for it, and it's essentially going to be, for now, 3 of the Mark Roberts motion control cranes, the Milo specifically. So the Milo short arm, the long arm, and the Titan. And I know not every cinematographer needs these models, but I'll say that when you get to the point where you're doing motion control on your shoots, being able to plan with an accurate model of the cranes are worth their, I said this in Twitter, their poly count in gold, because, you know, there's a lot of sleepless nights where you kind of plan out a move and you hope it's going to work out, and you build the set and you kind of plan the lighting based on this camera move, and like you basically just don't know until you get there, and that's a little bit scary. So that's kind of what Cine Design is there to alleviate, is that problem of like not really knowing what you're going to do when you get there. You know, you develop some like good improv skills as a DP, but I think having accurate MoCo models of these 3 cranes is really helpful. It'll help you decide which one you need. And eventually for motion control, it's going to have its own build, this extension. So it's build 1 now. And I am planning on adding other motion control cranes to the motion control builds. They won't necessarily be separate extensions. So as of now, I mean, that's for now, and I'm planning on adding the Techno Dolly. So basically the Milo and the Techno Dolly are kind of like the main motion control rigs for the industry. And I think other than that, there's like, you know, like a Gazelle. If you're in New York, people use the Gazelle still a little bit. I can add that really easily. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the 6-axis robots, because they're kind of like their own beast in a way. Like, so I'm unofficially now working with Motorized Precision, and I've built a pretty accurate model of Kira, accurate enough for planning. But as far as that partnership and moving forward with the 6-axis robots, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But for now, kind of like the traditional motion control rigs, and maybe I'll put even like the Kessler Cineslider in here if that's something you want. But the big ones, the big boy ones that you're going to really need to plan for, because if there's a Milo on your shoot or there's a Techno Dolly, you're paying like $5,000 plus to have that on set. You want to make sure you're doing it right. So let's hop into Cine Designer, and I'm going to show you how this works. You'll be getting a folder that's essentially just a folder of 3 different cranes to start. And I should also note that this is going to require build 3 of Cine Designer. Now, build 3 isn't going to have very much new in it, but I'll show you what's here. So basically, it's all the same. All that I changed was this camera builder has been re-scripted. And I think, Adam, you were telling me you were finding some problems with it. I found problems with it too, and I'll show you why it's important now. So essentially, we can grab a camera and we can bring it in. And it's just a camera. And I'm going to turn cameras off. So this is nice if you just want to like freestyle with the camera body, just the body. That might be important if you want to like put it on a rig or something like that. Now you get just that body, and it comes in and it works perfectly fine. Just the same, you can pick a head, and now just the head and the camera come in, and this all should be working now pretty well. Before this would get a little bit buggy. It wasn't really designed to be brought in bit by bit. And then the funny one that would be weird is if you skipped the head and you went right to the support. So But you can do that now. So if it's going to put the camera head or the camera body directly on the support, so you can do that. So that took a rewrite of the script to be able to be that flexible, and it's important moving forward for the following reason. To bring in the motion control rigs, you pick a camera, you skip the head, or you could select the head, but I skipped the head, and you're going to go to support. And you'll see support now is broken out by vendor, or however you want to organize it. Honestly, I'm starting to do it by vendor. And when you buy the first extension, the motion control extension, you'll be getting this folder called Mark Roberts Motion Control. And in there is the long arm, the short arm, and the Titan. So that's what you'll be getting with the extension. So let's look at each one of those really quickly. Let's bring in the short arm to start. So if you have a shoot coming up with the Milo and you work with it, this is going to be really valuable to you. And at the same time, if you're a director or a DP and you've never used motion control, or you have but you've never used these cranes and you want to know how they work, and kind of get to look at them and see how they move, this is a great way of doing that. It's kind of a maybe semi-expensive way, but there's really, that I know of, there's no other way of planning and learning about motion control other than this, which I think is a pretty fun way to do it. And if you're already doing Cine Designer, then that's jolly good for you. So I'm going to put a floor in here, and I'm going to make some weird tabletop situation here, and kind of show you how a Milo works, and talk to you a little about motion control. Motion control is a tricky thing in Cine Designer, but it's a tricky thing in general, but I'll kind of show you how this is playing out right now. So here's the Milo short arm. And what you can do is when you grab the CD controls, the main thing what you want to start with down here is track. And the Milo track comes in 3 meter pieces. So don't worry about feet. It doesn't come in feet. It comes in 3 meters, as a lot of MoCo is based in metric, because metric's better. So let's do like 9 feet. So this is going to be helpful. The track's pretty nicely modeled to scale. So if you've modeled your space, you can see how much track you're going to need. So we're going to lay out how much track you have here. And I guess I'm going to pull up over here. Let's bust into this mode. Let's look through our camera and let's do Garage. So here we are. I'm going to make, this is all fine. So here's a standard motion control setup, and what are we going to have this crane do? I don't know. So the first thing that you can do is the base dolly. And if you use the little bars here, this little slider, you have like very precise control. And actually this readout down here is the amount of centimeters that it moves. You can use it as like an arbitrary number, or you can actually figure out how much you need. So that's moving it back and forth on the track, which is this is the first rig that I've introduced track into, because I'm still working out how to do Fisher dolly track, because it has curved pieces, and that's tricky for me. So it's like, say you wanted an 8-foot straight and then a 90-degree corner into a 45-degree corner. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So we'll get there. But this one has a straight track. Milo only moves on a straight track pretty good. The next thing that happens is the base moves. This base rotates. So I'll get a better angle here. So you're learning about the Milo. So that happens. So you can swing the base. You can do this back and forth. So here's the interesting thing about a Milo, and this is why it's programmed this way. The other cranes, if you look at it from the side here, I'll just go into this for you to make it bigger. When you do the arm, when you tilt the arm up like this, what happens is that at this part right here, that's called the level or the pivot. Mark Roberts calls it something specific. I forget what it is, but I call it the pivot in this, whatever. This axis actually isn't going to auto level itself. It can. And on techno cranes, on most jibs, this auto levels itself. And I can build that functionality into it. But the thing about the Milo is you actually have control of it. So like for instance, you could do a shot where you start here and then mid-shot, that goes up in the air. You can do that with the Milo. So I had to leave this control manual. So it's a little bit weird like that. So you're going to have to animate this. And so the way that it kind of works, the math, if you want to keep it auto leveled, is that this arm tilt here. So say we do -20. Oops. We do a -20 arm tilt. Then you want to do a +20 pivot. And on my techno crane rigs, those things are linked so that you don't have to do that. But on the Milo, you're going to have to go manually make sure that that's leveled if you want it to be leveled. The other thing about the Milo is that it does operate this way. And then in which case you would bring this thing down. It can work. That's called overslung mode. The Milo can do that. You know, it's weird. And again, this is stuff that you really don't get to play with unless you use a Milo. Sometimes you see the Milo like this. Overslung with an angle out, the pivot's like that. And that's so that it can get extra height and then look down and not see its arm. And then so from there you have the pivot, you have the pan and the tilts, and this is a 3-axis so it rolls. So you get all sorts of weird stuff here. This is not your average Moko crane, because that's what the Milo is. It's kind of an odd beast, but like I said, if you have a Milo shoot coming up, this is a good way to make sure that the angles you're planning are possible, the moves are kind of possible, and if you've never done motion control on this level, this might be a good way for you to learn about motion control, is to play with it here and have some rough understanding of how it works in the real world. I mean, really, you need to be on set with it to understand it. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show you about the Milos. They're all like this. The long arm is just a longer version of this, and I'll show you the Titan right after. Let's program out like a really quick move here. I'm gonna keep it level, so I don't know what this move is gonna be. I'm going to let's see. Let's do this real quick. Let's pan over. Let's keep the ball more or less in the center of the screen. I'm gonna tilt down. This is gonna be a weird shot. So that's the camera that it's actually looking through. I'm gonna change the focal length to a 25, just a little bit wider. And this is going to show you roughly how to program a move, but the thing is about this as well is I'm going to key all these axes. Boom, 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 boom. Go to, let's say, like, I don't know, 300 frames. The thing about this is not going to move exactly how the Milo moves, because the Milo and motion control cranes do a lot of thinking for you. You essentially set an A point and a B point, and it figures out how the crane's going to move itself to do that. In our case, this is an FK rig. It's not going to do that for you. I mean, it will, but it's not going to be the way that the Milo thinks and the way that the Milo moves. But it'll be somewhat close. Especially the more practice you get being on set with a Milo, you'll understand it, you'll be able to animate it correctly. But it's not going to do that 100% for you. So sorry about that, but it's still a really good way to check, you know, the physicality, the mechanics of a Milo crane compared to a set piece, that sort of thing, compared to a person. How high does the track need to go? Milos don't go very tall. You very commonly see them on track or on, what's it called? On steel deck to bring them up in the air. This is stuff that you can figure out in the program. The camera moves, not exactly perfect, but the blocking, all that stuff is really important. There's really no other off-the-shelf way of doing this either in the world. There's people that offer services that do this, but they cost a lot more than just one day with them is going to cost you a lot more money than this whole extension. I'll say that much. So we've gone to our frame there. We're going to dolly over just a little bit. And what are we going to do with this? I dollied over. Actually, what are we going to do? I'm going to go back to the first point here. I'm going to pan this over a bit like that. I'm going to tilt back. I'm going to pan back on the head. Sorry if this is boring. This is just, I just want to show you like how this rig moves. Rekey over that. So right now you can see that the base is a little bit off-centered and the arm's a little bit swung over, and we're panned back looking at this object. And then after that we're gonna, let's say we'll dolly over just a little bit like that, and we'll let the arm do the rest. And then I'm going to pan the head back. Like this. Yeah. And I'll tilt up a little bit. And we're going to key those, and we'll play this back. I have no promises on how this move is going to look. Let's look at it here. Looks pretty good, honestly. So if this was a motion control shoot, it would be going bang. It's really loud. Motion control cranes are like super loud. So that's a pretty cool little Milo move going on there. And how come I can't? So here's the actual shot from the Milo point of view. There's no lighting, it's kind of hard to see what's going on. But more or less, that is how the Milo works, and that's how you're going to program it. And again, the physicality is the important part. Knowing that this is what it looks like from that angle and building your set based on that, that's what's important. Getting the exact move, you can get it close, and you can kind of like, what I would say, move in the right direction, do like the big broad strokes of how the Moko move goes, but then when you're on set, you're going to have to obviously do some more programming. So I'm just going to delete all that, and I'm just going to show you the Titan, because the Titan's kind of an odd beast as well. So we'll pick a red camera, go back in here, and we're going to pick the Titan arm. So the Titan arm, for you guys that don't know, and again, this is a great way to learn about Moko, is that it's essentially the Milo. It's a little bit taller. This column here is a little bit taller. I modeled these from pretty accurate CADs, and it's essentially a 30-foot techno crane that's motion controlled. So whereas the Techno Dolly is essentially a what is it, like a 12 foot, 13 foot dolly, or a 13 foot crane. It's not very long, the telescoping arm on the Techno Dolly. I'm gonna make that pretty soon. This thing has a very long arm. I think it's like 30 feet from the base or something like that. I forget. Anyway, it's the longest motion control telescoping arm in the world. As of recording this, there is one of these in Europe, in England, I believe, and there's going to be one in LA and one in Florida, actually, pretty soon. But this crane gets flown around the world because it's one of the only ones that can actually get you like this incredibly high shot and still be motion control. So it's kind of insane. So let's put the pivot back to 45. That's what you would do. You're going to have to counter animate. So as you animate the tilt, you're going to do the complete opposite negative number or positive number in the pivot, and that's going to keep it level for you. Or if you're so inclined, which some people do, you can put the pivot all the way up and animate from there. And people do that. It depends what you want to do. Moko is kind of odd. That's something that not most people understand or know about, but you get to practice that here in Cine Designer, so that's pretty nice for you. Let's bring the arm kind of back down like this. So negative 21, 21. That's how we fix that. Again, I could put the auto level back in, but it's not giving you the controls like how an actual Milo works. So Milo's kind of an odd one. Techno Dolly, you don't have that control. Techno Dolly auto levels itself. You just don't get that control. This is somewhat of a different head. It's designed for bigger cameras. And this is a pretty accurate model of it. It's a little bit simplified, but it gets across the kind of movement you're going to get from it. And then here's the third axis like this. I don't know if it's 360 or not. I forget about that head, but I programmed it to be 360. So that is the Titan. It's a very interesting crane. Again, I gave you about 30 meters of track, which should be enough for most of your jobs. If you need more, tell me. But you basically can move up and down this whole track and animate that. And just like the other Milos, the base rotates and everything. So these are very good, pretty accurate physical models of the cranes. They move the right way. It's just that the camera solve that it's doing is not like exactly what the Milo is going to do, because I would have to have access to like its inner workings, and they're never going to give me that. Nor do I really care. I mean, you're going to get a very close representation and visualization of what these cranes can do, and it's really cool. So if you want to program out like an entire one-take shot where like this starts up high and comes down and goes behind someone, goes over there, you can visualize that with this very accurately. Now, someone asked about putting the speed limits on this. All that I could ever do is that it'll tell you is that there's like a certain number of degrees per second that it can rotate at. I could read that out by basically comparing the degree at one frame to the degree at the next frame. On the next frame, I could have a readout that says what's the speed difference there. So you just have like an odometer. It wouldn't like stop the animation or something like that. So it's kind of up to you to really understand how fast these cranes can move, and that's not something that I personally really know a super lot about. In general, they don't move super fast unless it's a 6-axis robot. But maybe in the future, that's something I can kind of add. But it's really more of like a blocking and physicality of like, where does the set go if the arm's 30 feet out? Does it have to be on track? That sort of stuff you can figure out here, and like that's really powerful. And like I said, there are solutions for this that are basically services, and you're talking like $50,000 for one of those systems, maybe more. You're talking about hiring a freelancer that basically has this system that they built themselves that they weren't making available to you. You're talking probably like thousands a day just to talk to that person and get them on set. So this really is quite a value and really powerful if you, one, have motion control shoots coming up with the Milos, or two, you just want to get familiar with them so that when you're bidding motion control jobs, you kind of know what you're talking about, even though you may or may not have been on set with them already. So that is the look at our first paid extension for Cine Designer. Build 4, after this is going to be coming out right away, I'm going to be adding updates to, I think, the Fisher Dolly Axel was talking about. I would definitely put like the ROs and all the different things that happen on a Fisher Dolly. I want to get the Lambda head in there for you guys. I want to add light mats and gem balls and just add more stuff to it. I'm just going to keep adding to it and adding to core for as long as it makes sense. And I'm also at the same time working on Set Designer, because for me, the big holdup right now is to generate sets really quickly. Like I can 3D model a set like beautifully, and it just takes a long time. But I want to automate the thing, like automate adding floorboards, adding windows that are nice, adding shades, adding lamps, all that stuff. I just want like one button. You just click it, one button, enter the size of the wall, done. If I want to move the window, done. I don't have to actually 3D model. It's more like moving controls. You kind of saw that in Set Designer. That's I'm working on the background just for me, and I think to start to bring in production designers into the Cine Designer world ecosystem, if we build them a nice plugin called Set Designer that makes it much easier for them to design flats and that sort of thing in Cinema 4D, then who knows, maybe they'll join us and they can design the sets, you can do the cinematography. That would be very powerful. So that's it. Hope you guys like it. If there are any bugs or whatever like that, let me know if you do pick up this extension and things you want to add. I'm going to work on the Techno Dolly in time. That's going to be added to this for free at some point. It's just not like a major priority for me now that we have the Milos. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I think I'm going to try to show you how to get photoreal results out of Fuse characters and how to get photoreal results from 3D Scan Store models. I know that's a tricky thing. I'm still kind of challenged by that as well, but I figured out like a nice kind of workflow that you can just basically copy and make your characters real if you want to. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.